to tell you how one way that we know that God was with Joseph. Okay? So you think, what is one way you know that God was with Joseph? That God did not leave Joseph, even though he had some hard things happen to him. What's one way you know that? Cameron? His dad Jacob loved him and gave him the coat. When we have our people that love us, that is a gift from God. You're right. Sutton?
The pit.
What about the pit?
The angry brothers throw him in the black pit.
Yeah, can you go clip in, please? Walk that way, please. But yes, his brothers did join them. But tell me, how was God with him there? How do we know that God was with him?
It's because he's like there everywhere where anyone is.
He is. God is everywhere. But how do we know that God was with Joseph?
It's because
What's an example? This is hard. I want you to think about it. I want you to really think. Because, yes, you are right. God is everywhere, and the Bible tells us. But I want us to think about Joseph and what happened to him and how we still know, even though bad things, hard things happen, we still know that God didn't leave him. So think about that. Okay? Do you want to think some more?
Well, I know God is powerful, and you know he does like a pass. So like, if it was like nighttime and we're like...
He is powerful, yes. So think about how he's powerful in Joseph's life, okay? And then I can come back to you. Parker, give me an example of how Joseph.
I was listening to this.
Well, does it have to do with Joseph? Then don't tell me right now. Anybody got an idea? Think about how was God with? Hold it. How was God with Joseph? How do we know that God was good to Joseph, even though bad things happened? That's one way. Think about what you know about what happened. Jackson,
He folded him in the pit.
Well, his brothers threw him in the pit, but how was God with him? How do we know God was with him?
Because he was always with them. Because he was God.
Because God is God, and God is always with us. But how do we know? How do we see some things that happen that tell us that God was with him and God still took care of him? Jonathan?
Because he loved them.
He did love him. How did God show that he loved him?
By taking care of him.
Okay, we're getting closer. Okay, he took care of him. How did he take care of him? Tell me one way that God took care of Joseph.
By not getting hurt.
Okay, there we go. There's one way. He was thrown in a pit, right? And then he had to get out of that pit, and then he was carried off to Egypt as a slave, but
instead of getting killed.
Was he hurt or killed? No, he wasn't, was he? That was one way God provided and protected and helped Joseph. Very good. Okay, think of another way. There's other things that we saw that God worked. Violet, can you think of something? This is a hard question, but it's important that we think and not just know what happened to Joseph, but we need to think about who God is, and not just who he tells us he is, but how does he show us that he loves us, okay? So, Waylon, help me think of a way. What's another way? What's something else that happened with Joseph that we were like, oh, okay, that showed God was working and he loved him? What happened yesterday in our lesson? When he was in Egypt, what ended up happening?
That the people go there because they knew there was this food at Egypt.
That's right. Okay, remember that? The famine? Remember the famine? What's a famine, we said? Alana, what's a famine? What did we say yesterday was a famine? Do you remember? Do you remember, Kinsley? Famine?
Is it like food or something?
Yeah. Where they didn't have any food. A famine is where the ground is dry, no corn is grown, no wheat is grown, there's no food. There's maybe not even water. So people would starve to death, right? And God took care. God sent Joseph. God, in that Joseph ended up in Egypt a slave, but God used that for good when he had Joseph there to gave him that dream that there was going to be a famine, and Joseph saved all that food, so he was able to take care of himself and his brothers and his daddy Jacob, and a whole country of Israel, and a lot of Egyptians had food because God used that bad thing that happened to Joseph for good. So sometimes when bad things happen to us, we can say, oh no, this is so bad, they weren't nice to me, and this is horrible. And that can be true, it can be sad, but what we could do is say, God, could you use this for good? Would you bring something good to happen from this? And a lot of times God will. Maybe if somebody wasn't nice to you and wouldn't play with you, your feelings were really hurt, and you're sitting by yourself, but you know what might happen? You might notice somebody else that's all alone and playing by themselves, and you could go be a friend to them. Now, would that be something good? That would be something. God could use that bad thing, because we don't want people to be mean to us, but God could use it for good. What were you going to say, Kinsley?
But Riley's my favorite friend and Kendra too.
It is good to have good friends, isn't it? And that's a
favorite.
reason to give thanks to God for good friends. But sometimes people do hurt us, and we could use that for good. We could use that for good, Waylon. All right. Let's see if you remember where the Bible verse was. What was that word?
Slashed right into the middle.
Splashed right in the middle. Does anybody remember what the word was?
No. So many songs.
Psalm. Yes, good. Psalm. It means song. So say Psalm.
Psalm
139.
139.
It's like a carpool number. 139. Psalm 139. 17.
17.
Okay. Here we go. You ready? How?
Precious are yours.
Oh, you're right. I did it wrong. Okay, ready? Good job. Okay, ready? Here we go. Ready? How?
Precious are your words to me, oh God. It's like a bad word.
What's a bad word?
It's like O. It's like has O and then God at the end, or
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's, yeah.
yeah.
So when we don't want to say, because the Bible talks about you want to use God's name to lift him up, not tear him down, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear people say like, oh God, like that, that's like tearing God down. That's using his name in not a way that gives him praise. But this way, when we say, oh God, we are giving him praise, because we're saying, your thoughts about me are precious, oh God.
Yeah.
So that's a very different, our heart's saying, oh God, thank you, not, oh God. That, you're right, we should not say that. We should not use God's name that way. So we have to be careful about that. Even kind of that, like, when people say like OMG, that stands for like, oh my God. And a lot of times people use that kind of like, OMG. That's really not lifting God's name up and giving him praise. So we don't want to say that.
My
Huh?
dad says what my mom says.
Yeah,
my
it's
mom
not
says,
really good.
My mom says, my sister and my daddy and my mommy always says that.
That,
And
yeah,
I get tired of it.
and I've said it before too. And what I want to think is, I only want to use God's name to give him praise and thanks. So I got to be careful not to use it like that, you know.
Again.
So what I try to do, let's see, what can we say instead? Like, say,
I
oh my
love you,
word.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
gosh.
Oh stars.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Don't say
Yeah,
that.
but we got to try to, yeah, let's just think of another. We could be like, oh, fiddle. How about fiddle?
What is a fiddle?
Oh, fiddlestick.
Oh,
Oh, I like that one. That's the best. Listen to Parker's. Listen to Parker's.
Oh, sugar plum.
Oh, sugar plums. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Alana said, listen, how about this one? So instead of taking God's name, we'll be like, oh, man. That's a good one. Oh, man. Oh, man. That's a good one. All right, let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Level 0. Who's level 0? Who's sitting on their bottom? Who's looking? Thank you. All right, let's pray and ask the Lord. Max, you want to pray since you're our leader this week? Pray and ask the Lord to help us, please.
Lord, can you help us have a great day and help that I can invite a couple people to my birthday and hope that I have a great pumpkin cake and a great lunch. And maybe some achievement.
Amen. Amen. We already went ahead and prayed for lunch. Okay, we'll turn video off and then we'll go.